and network support, back with another video blog. This week I'll be teaching about bots, turning your computer into a zombie. This is part 3 of my 3-part educational series on keeping safe on the internet. Let's get started. You may have heard of bots before, or this may be your first time, but bots are just as dangerous as malware and phishing, if not more than. Because it makes you an unwilling participant in a criminal act. A bot is a piece of software that performs automated tasks by running scripts over the internet. It performs these simple and repetitive tasks much more quickly than a human, sort of like a robot. I am sure that is where the term comes from. Most bots are harmless and crucial for making the internet useful, like chatbots, auction bots, web crawlers, and spiders. Like anything else, bots can be weaponized or turned malignant and destructive when deployed by cyber criminals. I'm a history buff and I use history to see how something evolved. You know the old saying, if you don't know your history, you are doomed to repeat it. I love to look back and see how certain technology came to be and how it evolved, in this case, into something bad. Some say bots began all the way back with Greek mythology. But we're not going back that far. Let's go to the 1950s. In 1950, computer scientists and mathematician Alan Turing developed the Turing test, also known as the imitation games. Its most primitive format requires 3 players, A, B, and C. Player A was a machine, and Player B was a human. Player C was also human, but was the interrogator. By asking a series of questions, would try to determine who the human was. However, there was a problem at the time. Databases were very limited, and could therefore only store certain amounts of human phrases. That meant the computer would eventually run out of answers to give Player C, eliminating the challenge and prematurely ending the test. One of the most significant AI developments of the 1960s was the development of Eliza, a bot named in part for the Pygmalion character whose purpose was to simulate a psychotherapist. Created in 1966 by MIT professor Joseph Weizenbaum, the technology was limited to say the least, and was Eliza's vocabulary. The shift began towards the consumer market. If you remember some of the games from the 90s, Simon Says, I Took a Lickin' from a Chicken, and others. Then in the late 90s, around 1996, Tamagotchis, a computerized handheld pet, hit the market, which required digital care to keep it alive. Then, as the internet became popular, so did the use of bots. As I mentioned earlier, you had internet bots called crawlers or spiders. They went out and crawled through a website and harvested all the links to categorize in search directories. Remember those? So that doesn't sound so bad. When did it go wrong? Well, remember earlier I said, most bots are harmless and crucial for making the internet useful, like chatbots, auction bots, web crawlers, and spiders. Like anything else, bots can be weaponized or turned malignant. Something called the botnet was developed. What the heck is a botnet? Botnets are nothing more than an army of infected computers, which grow by infecting other computers. How that happens is the reason this is part of my 3-part series. It happens through Trojan horses, infected emails, viruses, etc. Who controls them? How do they get the instructions? So how does it work? First, it starts with an infection, generally called a Trojan horse. It's called a Trojan horse because it was let in by you. That's right, I said you. A free download from a website, freeware installation of some software. You reboot the computer and boom, you're infected. Antivirus usually does not pick it up because it is made to install before the antivirus has a chance to start and is not smart enough to know it is malicious. Once on your computer, it begins to report back to a C2C, or a command to control center, for instructions. That's it. Your computer is a zombie now, reporting to a botmaster for instructions and mindlessly infecting other computers. Most of the times, you will not know it's happening. It doesn't take a super amount of resources to get it done. Most of the times, it's only when alerted by your ISP or your internet service provider that a honeypot has flagged your network. A C2C is one way that a botnet is created. A second way, and most recently, is a peer-to-peer. So rather than each zombie communicating back to the botmaster, each computer becomes both the master and the slave.
Whoa!
Think Skynet. As you can imagine, the peer-to-peer method is much harder to kill. How to prevent? 2 parts education, 1 part technology, and having a good technology partner. Underdog Computer and Network Support will educate you and your staff on good surfing habits and the warning signs. Use proven technology securing your network and making sure your computers are up to date with the latest patches. Our professionals have been doing this for 26 years. Give us a call today, 570-634-5350 for a free review of your network. And never fear, we fix IT here.